here. Welcome you to today's edition of Editorials. We are broadcasting from Canada, and my name is Sandra Asante. Today we'll be looking at Tigray forces push south as Amhara militias mobilize, and UN urging the verifiable withdrawal of Eritrean troops from Tigray. So stay with me. I'll be back after the break so we ponder on it more. Thank you so much for staying with me. As always, you're welcome back from the break. Forces in Ethiopia's Tigray pushed deeper into land claimed by neighboring Amhara region on Tuesday, prompting its leaders, allies of the central government, to urge local militia to arm themselves and mobilize. The Tigrayan advance and the Amhara response raised the possibility of the widening of a conflict that has aggravated ethnic and political divisions in Africa's second most populous country, Ethiopia. The push sparkled calls from Amhara politicians for irregular militias to mobilize and arm themselves. Make quick preparations to mobilize to the front, said the statement from the National Movement of Amhara, a regional political party. The call was echoed by some local district governments in Amhara. The fresh fighting follows a vow by the region's ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front (TPLF), to retake all territory within Tigray's borders. It lost in conflict that broke out between the TPLF and Ethiopian Federal Forces in November. The fertile fields of western and southern Tigray are also claimed by the Amhara region, which has been administering it since hostilities erupted in November. The war pits Tigrayan forces, both formal and irregular, against the Ethiopian military and its allies from Amhara and the neighboring nation of Eritrea. Thousands have died, more than 4 million people depend on emergency food aid, and nearly 2 million, on the other hand, have been displaced since the conflict began. Donors suspended some budget support to the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed as report of mass killings of civilians and gang rapes mounted, raising concerns over war crimes. Spokespeople for the Prime Minister, Eritrean military and government task force on Tigray did not respond to calls seeking for comment. On Tuesday, Tigrayan forces crossed the deep gorge of the Tekezi River and take control of the southern towns of Mai Tesbri, an aid worker told the Reuters. The aid worker, citing information received from colleagues there, said local greeted Tigrayan forces with songs, cheers, and celebratory gunfire. The fighting started overnight. 2 refugees living in a camp adjacent to the town told Reuters, saying gunfire began around 1 a.m. and continued intermittently for about 11 hours. The fighting started overnight. 2 refugees living in a camp adjacent to the town told Reuters, saying gunfire began around 1 a.m. and continued intermittently for about 14 hours. We are on our own, the first refugee said, asking for his name to be withheld to prevent reprisals. We can't run. Where will we go to? Matacha Reda, the spokesman for Tigray's ruling party, told Reuters that Tigrayan forces had also seized control of Alamata, the major town in the southern part of Tigray, on Monday night. Both areas are claimed by Amhara, Ethiopia's second most populous region. The push south follows 3 weeks of rapid territorial gain by the TPLF, which seized control of the regional capital, Mekelle, on June 28 after taking control of several nearby towns. Abiy said the military pulled out of Mekelle to face threats elsewhere, and the government declared a unilateral ceasefire, which the TPLF rejected. Now let's look at the diplomatic resolution of all this. Also on Tuesday, the UN Rights Council approved a resolution expressing deep concern about abuses in Tigray, calling for the swift withdrawal of Eritrean troops which were exacerbating the conflict. Dozens of civilians have told Reuters about rape or killings by Eritrean troops. Eritrean's Minister for Information did not immediately respond to a request for comments but has previously denied any abuses. Eritrea spent months denying its troops were in Tigray at all. What is happening in Tigray region in Ethiopia is appalling, said Ambassador Lute Kutsen, head of the EU delegation to the United Nations in Geneva, which brought the resolution. Tigrayan leaders have said that Eritrean troops must withdraw before they will consider ceasefire talks. Ethiopia's delegate, who is not currently one of the Council's 47 members, categorically rejected the resolution. This resolution is a show of disdain for the ongoing joint inquiry with the intent of influencing its conclusion, said Ambassador Malet Hailu Gwade, referring to a probe by the state-run Ethiopia Human Rights Commission with the United Nations on alleged rights violations. Ethiopia's Foreign Affairs Ministry also rejected the resolution as premature. There is no moral nor legal grounds to justify the ultimately adoption of a politically motivated resolution, it said in a statement. Council member Eritrea also voted against the resolution. Now let's look at the verifiable withdrawal of Eritrean troops from Tigray. That is the UN urging that. The United Nations Human Rights Council has approved a resolution calling for an immediate end to all violations in Ethiopia's embattled Tigray region and for the Eritrean troops who support the federal government against the Tigrayan forces to quickly withdraw in a verifiable manner. The development of Tuesday came as Tigrayan forces said they have seized Alamata, the main town in the southern Tigray, following a launch of a new offensive 2 weeks after the federal government declared a unilateral ceasefire in the face of forces advances. In the resolution adopted with 20 of the Rights Council's 47 members in favor, 14 opposing and 13 abstaining, called for an immediate halt to all human rights violations and abuses, as well as violations of international humanitarian law. The text also called for the swift and verifiable withdrawal of Eritrean troops from the Tigray region. The resolution was presented by the European Union, which hailed a unilateral ceasefire declared by Addis Ababa last month, and also its participation in a joint investigation into the Tigray situation. But it voiced grave concerns at reported widespread abuses in the region in recent months, including mass killings of civilians and rampant sexual violence. In particular, it highlighted the reported participation of Eritrean troops in serious abuses there, including violations of the international law exacerbating the conflict. For months, both Ethiopia and Eritrea flatly denied the involvement of Eritrea forces in the conflict, but Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed finally admitted their presence in March, and they said they will withdraw. Abiy, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019, rapprochement with neighboring Eritrea sent the army into Tigray last November to remove the region's once dominated ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. He has accused them of orchestrating attacks on Ethiopian military bases in Tigray, while the TPLF accused the government and its long-time foe, Eritrea, of launching a coordinated attack against it. After 8 months of brutal conflict with federal troops, the Tigrayan forces last month swept across large parts of Tigray and retook the regional capital, Mekelle. Tuesday's resolution was met with strong resistance from Eritrea as well as China and Venezuela, which together presented 15 proposed amendments which are all rejected. Before the vote, Eritrea's representative Adem Osman Idris slammed the resolution, insisting that his country's troops had left the region. Ethiopia also categorically rejected the text, saying it interfered with the continuing investigation into the situation in Tigray. The resolution did welcome Ethiopia's decision to agree to the joint probe with the UN Rights Office and urged the government to ensure the conditions needed for a full, unhindered and independent investigation and for attaining accountability for all violations. Anita Pipan of Slovenia, who presented the resolution on behalf of the EU, insisted the intention was not to interfere with the probe, but said for process to be credible, transparency is needed. Given the seriousness of the situation, the international community has the right to be kept informed. UN Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet told the Council last month that the joint investigation, which has begun in mid-May, was expected to conclude its work in August. Separately on Tuesday, Tigrayan forces claimed that they have seized Alamata, the main town in southern Tigray, a day after launching their latest offensive in the mountainous region. We promise to liberate every square inch of Tigray, the spokesman Getachew Reda told AFP news agency, Monday, we launched an offensive in southern region of Raya and were able to absolutely rout Federal Defense Forces and Amhara Special Forces Division. He said, we have been able to secure most of the southern Tigray, including Kurem and Alamata, the main town in the area. Getachew said fighting was also taking place in western Tigray, an area where the United States has raised concerns about ethnic cleansing. He added their fighters were still in hot pursuit of pro-government fighters, adding, we don't want to give them a chance to regroup. The forces claim could not be independently confirmed because communications were likely down in the area, while Ethiopian military spokesman did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Thank you so much for joining me today for this edition of editorials. My name is Sandra Asante. I'll see you tomorrow.